What kind of state will it be?
A state, an independent Palestinian state.
Well, what will its human rights be like? I mean, with Hamas, of course, at the forefront, many people worry about the human rights of people.
No, that is wrong. If you were to go to ask the Palestinian people, the world has witnessed the Palestinian election in 1996. And they have seen, 2006, they have seen the Palestinians say in the elections, a huge majority of the Palestinian population has voted for Hamas because of the program they came in to solve the Palestinian situations. That's where is the democracy in Palestine. The minute that democracy came in and to show to the world, immediately the Americans and the Israeli occupation didn't like the Palestinians say and they who to represent them, and they imposed sanctions on the Palestinian people.
Taj Halagi, what kind of state should this be ultimately?
Ultimately, it should be a free democratic state for everyone, irrespective of Jew, Christian, Druze, or whatever. One state, single state for all inhabitants of Palestine, the Holy Land. And we make sure that guaranteed human rights for every individual, irrespective of group affiliation and religious identity.
And has the so-called Arab Spring, has it changed the context of debate?
Absolutely, because up to now we have the Zionist mythology that it is the only democracy in the Middle East. Which is not true. Turkey is a democracy and many other places are. This notion that somehow the Arabs are totally against democracy and only the Israelis or the Zionists are democratic, it's a total myth. We need... The West has only...
So you're talking about one state, there's a one-state solution ultimately which you believe should be headed towards, which is what is now called Palestine, what is now, Israel, that should be one state.
Ultimately, but I think maybe we need an interim solution or maybe a two-state solution for 20 years or so, build up confidence, measures on the Jewish side, on the Arab side, and bring people together. The ultimate goal should be that there should be human rights for all, not on the basis of your religious or cultural background.
Okay, so, or your ethnicity. Sam Westrop. How do you respond to that?
Well, look, it is time to free Palestine. It's time to free Gaza and the West Bank from the grips of Hamas and Fatah. I find it extraordinary that you call Hamas democratically elected. A democratic vote does not mean a democracy. Hitler was democratically elected. Now, if 51% of this room voted to murder the other 49%, that would not make that a democratic system. That would not make it a legitimate democracy. Hamas throws its political opponents off rooftops. It murders homosexuals. Its charter calls for the murder of Jews. And you're calling for a one-state solution with these people who call for this death. Now, I ask you, I have many Jewish friends and also homosexual friends who are very much involved with Israel advocacy and human rights activists. Now, Hamas calls for the murder of these people. Their charter calls for the murder of these people. So I ask you, do you support Hamas?
I mean, you talk about democracy. Let's take the 1947 vote that brought Israel into being. You have 33 countries being cajoled to vote, all Western Christian nations, by the way. The rest of the people voted against it. Now, you talk about democracy. Now, that wasn't a true democracy in 1947. Now, let's go back to the 1947 resolution that said, okay, we can have two-state solution and an international zone for Jerusalem. We've never gone back to that because to you, Jerusalem is the so-called eternal capital for a people that only control the Holy Land for less than 300 years in recorded history.
So, Sam Westrop?
In the UN two-state proposal in 47, Israel accepted. The Arabs rejected it and invaded.
Let's kill the Jews. Allow me. Let's go from wait, please. Let's go from 1947 to 2011.
Yes.
Is this not unsustainable? We spoke about prisons before. Many people see Palestine as a prison state at the
Absolutely.
moment, unsustainable. Whose fault is that?
One asks where the moral culpability lies. I say with Hamas or Fatah, with murderous, corrupt governments. Look, it's great that we're... One second.
Zionist regime.
It's very interesting we're filming from Glasgow today. It's very interesting we're filming from Glasgow today because the life expectancy in Gaza, according to a report released a year ago, the life expectancy in Gaza is better than it is in Glasgow. So as for this great myth of this terrible situation, I'm not so sure.
So
I do not doubt that it is not a free society. Why do you in the report say that Palestinians are so badly treated?
He's talking about Hamas killing its own people. We haven't seen, show me any case in that. But I would like to see, what about the depleted uranium we used by the Israelis, the white phosphorus, and the F-16, the Apache helicopter? In 2008, 2009, we have seen the aggression war has been held in the Palestinian people by the most corrupted regime in the Middle East, called State of Israel.
Raymond, as a writer and expert in such matters, Who has most to fear from the Arab Spring, Israel or Hamas?
It depends on what happens in the end. We don't know what will happen.
Let's hear his answer.
Compare
Let's see.
Hamas to the Israelis.
Can we hear his answer?
Hamas doesn't have nuclear weapons, it doesn't have depleted uranium, it doesn't have Apache helicopters, it doesn't have F-16 to kill people. The Palestinian people should be freed since 1917.
Sorry, Dennis.
The Palestinian people who has been deported from their
I'm going to have to go to the
homelands.
panel again, I think. This is...
Excuse me, please, 1 second.
Please let Dennis answer the question. He barely got a sentence out.
It's far too early to know what will happen with the so-called Arab Spring.
Yes.
In cases like Egypt, for example, it's very clear that the Muslim Brotherhood is very likely, not perhaps in the first election, but by the second. They've been trying to get into power for a very long time, and if they come into power, then they're linked to Hamas, for example, who are the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and these are fundamentalist terrorists. The Hamas Charter, the Hezbollah al-Sara Maftuha, and the PLO constitution are all quite clear that they will have no peace, no negotiations, no compromise, whatever.
The
that they will drive the Jews,
with the Israeli.
they will drive the Jews out of Israel, or Hamas particularly, that they will kill all the Jews there. And Mahmoud Abbas, in the last couple of weeks, has stated quite clearly that in any future Palestinian state, he says, not for the first time, there will be no Jews whatever. No Jew will be allowed to set foot. And that's where the whole idea of the one-state solution becomes quite chilling, because what that means is, in effect, they will do what the Nazis tried to do and make the whole of this Palestine Eden Rhine.
That's not the truth.
And can I just add one small thing?
Well, wait, Jamie wants to ask a question. I will come back to you, I promise.
The Palestinian people, we are not anti-Jewish.
I promise.
We are not anti-Jewish.
I promise I'll come back to you. I just want to hear from Jamie.
I just want to know, is what this man saying that your people are ready to do a reverse Holocaust on the Jews, is he telling the truth?
He's telling...
The man in the street.
Because all I see is women and children being thrown out of their houses while Jewish people move in and go, ha ha, I got another house.
She asked if it's true, and I'm going to come to Hamas.
You go online, look up the Hamas Charter, that'll be enough.
That's true. We know that.
Read it, and it says very clearly they will eventually kill all the Jews.
All right. Wait a minute, sir. Wait a minute. The Hamas Charter is dedicated to the... Wait. Let me ask the question before I give the answer.
Let me just come to one
Call me
point.
old-fashioned.
Please. Just 1 second. Let me assure you that as the Palestinian people, we are Jewish, we are Muslims, we are Christians. We have Palestinian Jewish living in Nablus as we speak. They worship their religion freely, and they are Palestinians.
What about the Hamas Charter dedicated to the destruction of Israel? How do we... What?
None whatsoever.
Well, it says it, though.
No, it's never said it. I'll show you that something. Just 1 minute. The Palestinian Hamas recently, just 1 second, recently has agreed, Hamas, even at the time of Yassin, has agreed to be Palestinian independent state in 1967 and will have a truce for a long term.
Let me ask Taj. Wait. Let me ask Taj, who's an academic and a man of reason and a man... Wait, sir. And a man of logic. How do we handle the... We're down here, please. How do we handle the situation with the Hamas Charter and what it says?
Well, I think the Hamas Charter should be put in cold storage. And I mean, this idea that, that one group of people can annihilate and do a reverse Holocaust, that's just totally out. What we need to...
what do you mean by... This is the government.
The Jews have a right there, but they don't have an exclusive right. The Old Testament is not a title deed to Palestine. No. The Old Testament is not a title deed. They cannot claim on the basis of that somehow they have exclusive right.